Welcome to week 5. So this week we're looking at processes. And I know we were speaking about foundations last week and that having your policies and procedures, is part of that. That's actually not what we're talking about today. So make sure that you have a look at the different tabs in foundations if you haven't looked at policies and procedures. Today, it's all about the client journey and the process around that. So the reason why it's important to have processes in place to support your client's journey is so that, one, you're not recreating the wheel all the time. Two, you're appealing to your ideal client. So those processes need to be satisfying the need of your ideal client and also filtering out people that you are not really there to support. And with that, with the process and understanding of what that journey is and what it looks like for your client, you're able to provide some consistency and certainty for them, which helps build that know, like, and trust factor. So, and one thing that's really challenging for business owners is when there's a lack of consistency. And this is part of that step from the website through to your marketing, email marketing, through to your phone manner. That consistency in the brand and the delivery and the solution that you're providing. When that's not there, it causes a bit of angst and insecurity, and you don't want that for your clients. So having processes in place provides that security and allows them to be taken on a journey to find that solution rather than feeling like they're being kind of thrown around to create some sort of random solution that may or may not fit for them. So thinking about where people first hear about you and your services, even before that, when do people realize that they have a pain that you could ease? And so not specifically thinking about you at this stage, but when do they identify that they've got this pain? And once they're feeling like this isn't working for me, is it sometimes that they don't identify that until it's brought to their attention? Or do you solve a problem where they do know very well that they've got this pain point ahead of time? So thinking about where your service sits in that. Do they need to be told, hey, do you feel like this is your pain? Or, hey, I know this is your pain and you know that this is your pain and let's move forward from here and that's why you're here. So thinking about the two different ways that people could be approaching that first sort of port of call. So when they first find you or hear about you, you need to address that first. Do they know they have the pain point, or do they need to be told they've got it? Do they know that there's a solution? And we were talking about this earlier with ideal client. Or do they need to be told that there's a solution? Do they know what the next steps are? So with each of these, you're thinking about, okay, so if they're, talking to someone who knows about my business, or if they are, hanging out on social media, if they're browsing Google, on LinkedIn, maybe, wherever it might be, what are they going to be hearing or seeing about this particular pain point? So there's an awareness as well of what's out there in the market. If they're speaking to someone who knows you and your services, does the person who knows you and your services know what to say to then help this person find you as a solution? So make sure that the people around you, your stakeholders that we spoke about earlier, know what pain you ease, who you're looking for to support, and what the next step is. So communicate with them about this as much as possible. So they are effectively a sales rep, but word of mouth is better than anything. So make sure they know what to say and who to say it to. So that's one part of a journey. What happens next? So think about, all right, I'm going to tell your sales team, your family members, whoever it might be, to direct them to, maybe it's a Facebook page or maybe it's a website. And if you're looking at using your Google algorithms, what stuff is on there that you're highlighting? What are you telling them to do first? Do they go straight, what's ranking higher, your social media or your website? What's the next step that they're told when they hit these points? So they've met someone, the person says you need to go to the website, or they've met someone and the person tells them to go to the Facebook page or LinkedIn. Whatever you've told, be consistent and tell people what you want them to say. And then once they're there, What's the next step? On LinkedIn, where do you tell them to go? What do you tell them about? Social media, same thing. What are you telling them, and what are you telling them to do next? Odds are you're directing them through to your website. So remember, I've said earlier that I don't talk about building a website straight up, because I don't believe that you can provide a website that has solutions and action plans until you know what your service is and who you're targeting it to. So this is all part of that process. So thinking about, okay, well, if I'm going to direct those people to my website, what needs to be on it? What does it need to say, and what does it need to tell them to do to move them forward? Not just in my sales funnel, but to move them forward in the know, like, trust factor journey. So what's the gaps for them? Remember, we're talking about what do they still need to know? Where did they go originally to find those answers? Did they know that they had that pain point? This is all part of responding to that by creating a journey for them. Now, they may come in at different points. You don't know where they're going to come in at, but you know that once they've hit that journey or that funnel, if you want to call it that, like those hands there, you know where they're going to go from there. So they might sign up on your website to a complimentary call with you, or they might sign up to a newsletter or an opt-in. And opt-in is really, really common where, on my website, for example, the opt-in is a VA startup checklist. So I ask people, give me your email address if you wouldn't mind, and I will send you this checklist. And what will happen is a little bit later, I'll check in and see how you went with that checklist. And I'll keep an eye out for whether or not you're using, like clicking on it and actually checking it or not. And based on your behavior, I can move you through this journey so that I'm supporting you as best I can. Part of my journey asks people, once they've signed up to the checklist, do you know about some of our mini courses that we've got? So we've got our 6-step challenge and our 5-day challenge. Now, one of them is for new VAs and one is for VAs who've been doing it for a little while. And so I'm able to then guide them based on which one they select. Some people select both. But obviously, if they're a new VA, they're going to be more likely to pick one than the other. And then I can support them as a new VA versus supporting them as a VA who's been around for a little while. So I'm conscious of the choices that they're making and the way I'm able to support and guide them in their business journey. And with these steps, I can show them that I know what I'm talking about. So I'm building the trust factor. They're also getting to know me. So I'm building the know factor. And hopefully, if I'm appealing to the right people, we're building on that like factor as well. And so you need to be doing that too. So it's not just a case of chucking together a bunch of newsletters and hoping that, people resonate with that. I think it's really important to think about what those knowledge gaps are, what those trust gaps are, or like gaps are, and start filling them in that journey. Once they start to work with you, so they've built on that know, like, trust factor to the point where they're confident enough to give you some money and ask you to do some work for them, what happens then? Okay, so do you have an onboarding form? Do you have a document that makes sure that you're asking the right questions so that you're supporting them properly, and so that you can also keep filtering and see whether they still are the right fit for you? So we've got in this section some downloads for you to be able to, use and tweak and make work for you. If you've got it, we were talking about software very briefly in the previous module. If you've got a CMS, not CMS, it's CRM. CMS is like a WordPress or Weebly or anything like that. So your website, it's a content management system. CRM is client relationship management. I always mix the two up. Anyway, your CRM, some of them will have workflows. So they'll say, person hits my CRM, so they've joined the newsletter list because they've signed up for this opt-in. And then it's going to send them that newsletter, and then the next step is that it's going to wait a few days, and if they've clicked on the newsletter, it's going to ask them how they went. If they didn't click on it, it's going to remind them to click on it, and so on and so forth. Okay, so guiding them through those processes. So we've got some documents there for you to tap into, and some of them, like the Client Wow checklist or Mission Wow checklist, you can convert that into workflows within your CRM so that you're reminded of each of the steps that you need to take. So part of those workflows are around having that onboarding document. So you're asking the same questions of people, being consistent, making sure that you're all on the same page, making sure that you've got an agreement in place, making sure that deposits are paid as appropriate, the original task is confirmed and validated, client is kept informed, service is delivered, and so on and so forth. So it's a checklist to make sure that you're doing that properly. And within that process, it's also the following up, making sure that the outcome was achieved, making sure that they're happy, getting any feedback you can, and then asking them again what you can support them with next. So having this consistent and, you know, useful, helpful process will not only support you to deliver your services better, but it will help your client feel secure because you're guiding them through this journey. Okay? So don't assume your clients will guide you. They've hired you for your expertise. They need you to guide them. The best VAs that I've worked with, I've been able to go, this is my pain point. And I've got 2 examples from this year alone where I had one where I was complaining about social media advertising and saying, I do it and it just does nothing and it's terrible. And I had a VA come up to me and online and say, hey, here's some tips for you, right? So the first thing she did was she started working on the know, like, and trust factor. So here's some tips. This is what you could be doing. Change it up a little bit, blah, 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 blah. Yell out if you need any help, right? And I went, help, because I hate this. I don't want to do this. And you seem to know what you're doing. And we already knew each other, but I didn't know that she was the solution to my pain. And I'd only just realized when I had a Facebook ad bill come in and no results for it that I had the pain. And so I said to her, please help me do this social media thing is driving me crazy. And she took the reins and she said, right, this is how we do it. This is the process that I recommend for you. Let me know if you disagree or you've got other plans, but this is the process I recommend for you. This is what I'm going to need for you. Tell me what sort of outcome you're looking for, blah, 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 and just totally guided the process and has done so since day dot. So I don't have to worry about it. I'm completely guided. I'm like a little baby and I just do what she tells me to do. And I know that it's in hand. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Another one I had was someone who I had some issues with IP Australia, because by now, if you had a look at the trademark registry, you'll see that it's a great website. And I had a few issues with my account, and I said to someone, I knew that they were doing IP support, and I said, can you help me fix this? I can't work out how to fix it. And she just went, yep, no worries. This is the process and this is what I need from you, and I will do the rest. Oh my gosh, I was just, for both of them, I have been so happy to pay their bills because they guided the whole journey and I felt complete know, like, and trust with them. Their communication, their deliverables, their processes were just fantastic. So always think about that in terms of the way your client is feeling and guide them and support them and ease their pain all the way through to, from the worrying about it through to the outcome. Okay. Now, when you have clients come on board or when you finish up with clients, always be clear about what dates and to-dos they need to be aware of. So, for example, with the social media stuff, I've been added to an Asana project and I get told I need you to create this by this date. Or do you need help with this by this date? These are the outcomes. I pick whether or not I get someone else to do them or I do them myself. But I know what the timelines are, and I get reminded if I forget. And I know what the tasks are. So make sure that you communicate and are clear with that as well. Again, part of that client journey. It is a complete journey with you. Never forget that. And always looking at moving forward with your client. Encourage them to take the next step. So don't sit back and wait, guide them. Okay, so finding solutions. With taking on a new client, especially if you're providing a sort of more holistic sort of support where it's not just a single project and then you're off and doing your own thing, be really conscious of what stuff they're putting out there, how they're communicating with their market, what they're trying to achieve, whether they've written any new blog posts recently or been a guest on a podcast, and just be on top of where they're at and what their presence and their impact is within their industry and your industry, so that you can still guide them and be completely aware of where they're at. I know that when you start giving advice to a client on things that they already know and they've already done, it's kind of like saying, I haven't done my homework and I'm going to start, telling you things that I assume you don't know anything about. And it kind of ruins that little bit of that trust factor. I had some people recently redo my logo for me. Look at that. And they didn't just redo my logo, they helped me with the whole rebranding process. And from the first Zoom call that I had with them, or Skype call it was, I was blown away by how much homework they had done on me. So I had this call with them and I'd said to them, this is what I'm thinking of, this is what I want to change. And they came to the table and they said, okay, so we see you've got a conference, we see you've got a podcast, we see you've got your books, you've got your membership, and they just knew all of the things. And it was so fantastic because they'd already started processing and thinking about what my whole business was as a big picture, rather than just thinking about this one logo. And it was just instantly, I felt grateful. Instantly, I liked them. But I also felt really valued and felt like I was investing my money in people who really cared and gave a damn. So big ticks to them for that as well. Okay, so I've got the 3 C's that I want to share with you. To make sure that your clients feel really supported, you need to show that you care. You need to show that you are confident in what you do. And as a result, you'll be able to convert them to becoming your ideal client. Okay? So I've got some homework for you, as always. So have a look in the modules, look for the asterisk, and we'll have a chat about your homework on Wednesday. See you then.